Pandora's box, according to ancient myth, was a gift from the gods. A wedding present from a devious use, delivered with the warning that it should never be opened. Of course, Pandora's curiosity proved too strong, and she peeked inside, instantly releasing all the misfortunes of mankind into the world. That was the myth. The truth, unfortunately, was far worse.
Don't be afraid. Despite Legendary coming from Spark Unlimited, the creators of the recent Turning Point Fall of Liberty, a game whose cool concept clashed with its overwhelming mediocrity, this game not only delivers on a pretty badass concept, but also delivers quite a few of the gameplay goods. And yet again, this one pretty much was dismissed with a yawn by the gaming press. If you're the kind who just plays the occasional flagship title like Gears of War and Grand Theft Auto, you've probably never even heard of this little gem, and that's too bad. But hey, it's not your fault. It's those damn video game reviewers I love so much. Please note, even though I'm currently in the process of actually reviewing a video game, I don't count myself as such unless I get paid to do it. Donations welcome. But anyway, the plot in Legendary casts you as Deckard, a thief for hire with the conversation skills of Gordon Freeman, aka this bastard's deaf, dumb, and mute for all intents and purposes, who opts to steal Pandora's box from the basement of a museum in New York City. He is contracted to do this by a shadowy figure known as LaFay, who could only be a villain craving world domination, but our hapless hero doesn't catch on as fast as he should. Anyway, to make a long story short, in trying to steal the box, Deckard accidentally opens it, earning a few special powers for his efforts. But like one of those medication commercials, side effects include a bevy of bloodthirsty mythological creatures being unleashed upon the world, including werewolves, griffins, minotaurs, and Bulgarian fairies. I'm not kidding, Bulgarian fairies. Anyway, the myth meets reality catastrophe provides a cool, if B-movie setup for this FPS. The plot straddles a fine line between silly and engaging, never choosing one side or the other, which is fine.
Bet that thing stings like crazy. Probably should watch where you stick your hands in the future, huh? Everybody look alive. The boss is online.
The game opens to some tightly scripted but very immersive chaos, as griffins rain from the sky, snacking on New Yorkers like oversized pigeons on breadcrumbs, only to find the nearest parked car or statue to shit out the remains, no doubt. Through this small chunk of the game, you're basically fleeing for your life, as you view the aftermath of the destruction you yourself have caused. Soon enough, you grab a fire axe, which definitely comes in handy, and a standard pistol, which definitely does not. You might as well be shooting peas at your first batch of rock-hard foes. Getting up close and personal is the only way to go for a while. When shotguns and machine guns finally do come into play, the actual first-person shooting finally amps up to a satisfying degree, even though human enemies, of which there are a few scattered throughout the game, are hard to get a drop on due to their herky-jerky movements. Fortunately, they're the antithesis of the bad boys from the original Half-Life, as they basically line up to be shot. Even when they take cover, they lean out, leaving basically their entire body and head exposed. Pop, pop, suckers! The other enemies in the game fare better, much so. Although there are arguably too few enemy types in Legendary, what's here is very, very memorable. The werewolves, for instance, make for intense adversaries. They will not stop until they rip you to shreds, and they can come from anywhere, including the ceiling or the nearest wall. And another little detail. The only way to kill one permanently is to behead it. Early on, the best method for this is the fire axe, but later a good blast with a shotgun or scoped rifle should do it. It's too bad the game throws so many werewolves at you constantly from beginning to end, as facing them eventually becomes less breathtaking and more tedious. Endless streams of them in certain missions don't help either. Other cool enemies include minotaurs, who unlike the werewolves are used sparsely, but they will probably make you piss your pants every time you face them. Bringing one of these bad boys down is a task of epic proportions, and just wait till you have to deal with two at once. The Bulgarian fairies are a little more annoying than anything else, as they phase in and out, flying this way and that like crack-addicted ADD kids with wings. Fortunately, one of your special abilities allows you to force them into physical beings so that you can shoot them in the face. The griffins are cool too, and so is a hulking sea beast that terrorizes London. An imaginative golem formed from cars and chunks of masonry gives NYC the Godzilla treatment and makes for some good set pieces, but you never really face off against it in a direct fashion. Either way, these are the standouts, and I'd even go so far as to say they are some of the most memorable enemies I've battled in an FPS for quite some time. This is where the game shines. Graphics are solid if glitchy. There are too many issues with enemies, especially wounded werewolves clipping into solid objects, for example. And the level designs aren't exactly imaginative, but at least there is a decent amount of variety to be had in the buildings and sewers of New York City and the ancient ruins of London. The hard rock music that serves on the soundtrack, while distinct, definitely doesn't fit the epic tone of the game though, and is more than slightly grating. Some cool storybook-like paintings add personality to a few of the cutscenes, ultimately rounding out a pretty decent-looking package. A few gameplay quirks, like having to override every electronic door you come across, slow down the pace of what is otherwise a breakneck game. Their inclusion is questionable, but they do serve to remind you that Deckard was a professional thief before he became a myth-slaying badass. Bottom line, I play a lot of first-person action games. Well, basically all of them. This is my favorite genre, after all. I'm an addict. And my opinion may ultimately mean jack shit in the grand scheme of things, but to me, Legendary gets a hearty recommend and 2 thumbs pointed up toward all those ravenous griffins. It's not a classic, but it's a memorable entry in what could be, but probably won't be, a cool new series. Ignore the reviews and give it a shot. This is one of the most underrated games of 2008, right alongside Army of 2.